Hey, what's going on, parents? Welcome back to Teenager Tuesday. It's a good Tuesday. It's November and the fall. I love it.
And I love the fall.
Yeah.
It's my favorite time.
I love the holiday season. If we haven't met, my name is Will. I'm the lead student pastor here at Hope. And with me today is the one, the only executive pastor, Angela Linz.
That voice made me sound really scary.
I don't know why I went all like deep and sinister. Angela,
very sinister.
If you haven't met Angela, Angela's role is, to sum it up, it's basically everything. Angela is, like you lead almost every department in some form of fact. You and Aaron together, but yeah, you lead so much. So thank you. Appreciate you being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
And it's a very light topic to talk about. Very easy.
Oh, super easy.
We're in a series called Hot Topics. We're going to be in this for a while. We're kind of right in the middle of it now. And today we are going to open up the conversation about how to talk about sex with your teenagers.
Fun.
Easy.
Who doesn't love to do this?
Yeah. And parents, what we're going to do is we have a resource for you on this. If you go to hopefellowship.net/students and then you scroll down, you can click on the parent resource page. You can find this information, or you can just keep listening to this podcast. There's more and more people listening to this and sharing it with other parents in our church, not in our church. This is fun. Maybe it's a rant, but I was at a youth conference last week, and a youth pastor, not from our state, not from our church, who I didn't know, listens to our parent podcast.
No way.
And was like, thank you so much. This is so helpful in helping me lead parents and stuff. So it's cool. So anyways,
very exciting.
So share stuff. All right, sex.
Let's jump in.
The number one place, through the research I've read, the number one place that young people go to look for answers about sex is Google. Not their parents, not a mentor, a mentor that's trusted by parents, so hopefully today and next week, and we kind of harp on this here and there, we can kind of help bridge that conversation that could be awkward. Was it awkward for you with your kids?
You know what? At the beginning, it's just not a fun conversation to bring up. You always worry, am I doing it right? Am I leaving something important out? For those of you that don't know, I have 3 teenagers right now, 2 17-year-olds and an 18-year-old. But I think, at the very beginning, I just felt, I grew up in a house that didn't talk about it a lot. And so I wasn't sure how to talk about it. Yeah. And so thankfully, I had some friends in my life that talked to me about this early on.
Okay.
And I had some other adults who were further ahead in parenting than I was. So I really had some good role models that showed me kind of, hey, this is a way you can start to talk about it.
Yeah.
This will make it easier.
Yeah. So. Unfortunately, in my house, it was either a joke, somebody made a joke in some way, or it was like just say, oh, it's bad. It's sinful.
Right.
And like,
right.
There's bad. It can be bad, but it's meant to be good. And
absolutely.
The first tip, I love you were talking about before we recorded that you kind of started this conversation early, which is our first tip.
Very early. Talk about it early and often. We started this conversation when they were probably 7 or 8, and obviously it was very age appropriate. Yeah. It was. It came because they asked the question, how are babies made? And so we just went through the very scientific, factual side of it. There were some incredible books that we used that were broken down by age group and by gender of how to talk to your kids about sex. And so we walked through those and we started that conversation early, but then it wasn't a one-time thing. Yeah. It was a consistent conversation. We would see something on TV. They would kind of look at us like, what does that mean? Or one of them actually said, we were watching The Office together, and one of them said, what does that mean again? Somebody had made like a sexual innuendo. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, that's this. And I just explained it. And I thought, oh, thank God they asked me. Thank God they didn't Google that.
Yeah.
So, but we just respond, and we respond quickly and calmly and just talk about it like it's not... We don't make a huge deal out of it, basically.
Well, and there's probably parents listening to this thinking like, I haven't had these conversations, and now they're freshmen in high school.
Like,
what kind of advice would you give to them?
It's never too late.
Yeah.
Sit down with your kid and just ask, like, hey, what do you understand about this? I know if I was to ask my kids that, they would laugh and be like, are you joking? I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. But at the same time, sitting down, usually if I take them out to dinner, food always makes them open up.
That's so smart.
If I take them out to dinner or we're like hanging out in the car and I'll say, hey, I noticed in this text conversation you had mentioned this, or this friend of yours said this. Do you understand what that means? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah.
And so I think just asking questions about their life and asking them to understand them, not in a way that would make them feel like they're about to be shamed or in trouble.
Right.
Ask questions to understand them better.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you use the word shame there, because it does seem like the more it's ignored, the more like shame is attached to it, because it's detached from like the spiritual leading that parents can have in their students' lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tip number 2, just an acknowledgement. I think everybody kind of knows this, and hopefully this is on your mind, and slightly scary, maybe this is motivation to get you into action or something, but porn has no respect for age or gender. Countless times, most young men that I've had conversations with in our youth ministry over the years, they were exposed to pornography before they got to middle school. I was 7 years old when I was, and now it's like way more, you know, accessible. You can stumble upon it accidentally, not even looking for it. You can stumble upon it. So this one is just like, hey, if you think they haven't, they've probably have been exposed in some way, or they've accidentally found it or seen it or something. So if it's like, no, I want to keep protecting them, it's like, I think there's better protection in redemption than ignorance, if that makes sense.
For sure. I think it's always better to ask, hey, I know you're on your phone sometimes. Do you ever see something like this?
Yeah.
Do you understand? Do you even understand what porn is? Like, how would you define porn?
Yeah.
And I think it's also why it's so important to not let our kids have full privacy on their phones.
Absolutely.
I am adamantly against it.
Yeah.
They are not, they don't have enough, what do you call it, like development in their brains even to make wise choices for themselves.
We're dopamine addicted,
yes,
much less
absolutely.
young people who their brains are still
It's
maturing.
our job to protect them. And so while I try to respect my kids' privacy and a lot of things, I also have tools on their phones that tell me when something is looked at or when something is said in a text message or when something comes up. Yeah. Just because it's important. And then when it does, it doesn't become a full-on World War III. It's a conversation we have.
Well, and I think that leads well into point number 3, which do you want to, you take that one.
Don't freak out. Do not freak out.
Yeah.
Make yourself a safe space for them. When your kids know that they can come to you and you're not going to immediately melt down with whatever they're going to say, they will come to you so much more often. And listen, I didn't always get this right. I messed this up a lot in the beginning. I immediately would respond out of fear. Like I would panic as a mom, being worried that, oh my gosh, what's happening now? Or now that you've seen that, or now that you've done this, I'm a terrible parent and you're gonna, you're never gonna be able to get your head back on straight and do anything right. And I would just panic. And instead, I have learned over the years, do not freak out.
Yes.
Listen to them, listen to understand, make sure that they can see care and compassion on your face when they're talking to you, not condemnation.
Yeah, you said something to a lot of staff members over the years, which is so good, which is watch your face.
Watch your face.
Your face is communicating more
intention. And I say it because I'm the worst at it. You can tell exactly what I'm thinking all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's so important for you to be able to say, thanks for coming to us about this.
Yeah.
Thanks for trusting me with this. How can I support you?
Yeah.
If your kid comes to you and says, I'm struggling looking at porn, I can't stop. You want them to hear you say, I'm going to walk with you through this.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
And this kind of leads to point number 4, which will be our last today, and then we're going to come back next week and finish this out. But if your kid comes to you with this stuff, first off, that's a miracle from the Lord.
Yeah. It's a really
I can't
great thing.
imagine the bravery, because like there's so many voices inside of them telling them not to talk to you as a parent. But number 4 is my opinion, is don't force consequences if they bring a conversation to you. And now, of course, there's lines to that. Of course, there's you need to protect them.
It's different if they're hiding something or they're lying to you, or that's a different conversation.
That is different, yeah.
I think.
Versus them coming and saying, I'm struggling.
Yes.
And if they're struggling, they're coming to you for support and they're asking for help even before they ask for help. So if like you said, if we don't freak out and if they come to us and we don't say like, what? Give me your phone. You're never, give me that thing.
I would strongly say, and I agree with this resource that we're going to share, that if they come to you with something, I would highly suggest you not give a consequence.
Yes.
Because you are training them. If you immediately punish them as soon as they're honest with you for the first, you're training them to not want to come back to you.
Yeah.
You're training them to think, I can't be honest about my stuff.
Yeah. Something I said to a parent a couple years ago was the value of having the conversation outweighs stopping them getting to it one time in one way. The value of them having that conversation. So don't freak out and don't force consequences. If they come to you, if you catch them, it's different.
Yeah,
obviously
it is.
Yeah. And we're going to pick this conversation up again next week. But remember, parents, you're not alone. You can do this. God is with you, and so are we. Have a great week.